Hey, this is Adam Torres, and I'm here to tell you that it has never been easier to start your very own podcast. At Mission Matters, our goal is to amplify stories that matter. That means we want to help you start your podcast because your story matters. We can do this in 3 different ways. 1, join our podcast school and take a free or paid course. 2, visit our resources page where we've already figured out what you need, such as where to host your podcast. Or 3, heck, we can even do everything for you through our podcast agency, including editing for cheaper than you can do in-house. Oh, and no contract, service is month to month. Get started by heading over to missionmatters.com and click on Start a Podcast. All right, now let's get into the show.
Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Innovation Podcast, your source for all things innovation. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, today I have Esther Crawford on the line, and she's CEO and co-founder over at Squad. Esther, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, Esther. So I am excited to get into Squad and what you're doing and some of the responses you've gotten. I think it's an amazing app, a screen sharing chat app, and I want to get more into that. But before we do, I'd like to just to give the audience a little bit more of your background. So how did you get started kind of as an entrepreneur and in business?
Yeah, so I started out in school as a content creator. So while I was in college, I was blogging about my life and started to build an audience. And then I was really early to YouTube and became a pretty successful early YouTuber. And so that was what actually brought me into the tech industry ultimately, which was a pretty big deviation from my initial career path. But I was just following what I really loved doing organically, built audiences on a couple of platforms, and then realized, oh, wow, you know, the direction is heading more towards influencer marketing, and the world of advertising is really shifting. And so ended up going more in that direction, just kind of organically.
That's awesome. And I think that's a great transition. So let's bring us back up to present day. So tell us more about Squad.
Yeah, so Squad is really an app for helping to facilitate meaningful connections. And like I mentioned, I was an early YouTuber. I have this really deep respect for and love for social products. And so started thinking a couple of years ago about what would it look like to build the next generation of social. And so much of what we've done to date is very asynchronous. Like if you think about how you interact with content, it's mostly through feeds. So you're liking and commenting things asynchronously. At Squad, it's a totally synchronous experience. And so you come into rooms where you can have audio and video on. They can be with people you know or people you don't know. And for us, it's really about creating a social network that's focused on real-time shared experiences. So instead of kind of asking you to create new content, we give you a place to consume the content that already exists.
Man, that's awesome. And I can see it, you know, like it's different. So when I look at the app, when I look at the way people are using it, it's different. Can you talk a little bit more about the feedback you've gotten from the user base? Because I want to see how they are kind of interacting overall as a community on this. Because again, being the early YouTuber that you were, you saw the transition and kind of how things evolved over time. So I'm sure you have a game plan for how you want Squad to evolve over time.
Yeah, so it's a lot more like a digital living room than a digital stage. So I say that because I feel like most of the platforms we use today. A digital
living room. I love that. I've never heard that term. If that term's been used elsewhere, I don't know. But if it's not, you coined it. A digital living room. I'm in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just the way that you interact when people come to your house is really different than the way you interact if you go up in front of a crowd of people. And so we're trying to really simulate that living room space. So you come in and you can, like I said, be on audio and video. You can see the same thing at the same time. That might be watching movies or YouTube or TikToks or whatever. And so what we see in terms of behavior is it's a lot more participatory. And that's very different from sort of social media, the social media of the last generation, where it is so much about the consumption experience. And also, if you were one of those content creators, then it was really about performing. So, you know, on Twitter, I always kind of feel like I need to have smart or pithy, funny, like little tweets. On Instagram, you want to show like your perfect self. So anyways, all of these different platforms are really interesting and great, but they have a very different kind of value proposition than Squad, which is really meant to be a place for you to be yourself, come chill live with other people.
That's awesome. And I think I think like many of the people listening right now are like, wow, that sounds like it's different. Like you said, on Twitter, I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to write on Twitter today? I know I need to do at least one. Please let me have a moment of inspiration.
Well, I feel like the thing that is still really missing is conversation. Like just what you and I are doing right now. We're live. We're having a conversation. It can flow in a bunch of different directions. As we get to know each other more, the conversation can grow in depth. And so that's just true for all of human interactions. And I think it's been really hard to kind of bring that to the internet. And so we're hoping that we're part of that move towards more of that real-time human interaction.
That's exciting. And so what's your vision going forward? So I know you have a 2.0 coming and some other things. I mean, tell us about what's next for Squad.
I mean, for us, really, at the end of the day, it's about continuing to improve the platform. We have all of these things that you can already do inside of the rooms. And we have the mobile experience. We also have a desktop experience. On the desktop, what we see mostly people using that for is watching longer form content together, like Netflix shows. And, you know, for us really moving forward, it's all about how do we better facilitate those kinds of interactions in the rooms themselves. Do you want to have icebreakers to better get to know each other? Like just all these different elements that we're kind of constantly playing with. Our user base tends to be Gen Z, and so we have a lot of college students who, you know, want to meet each other, and what we're really excited about is the development of communities on the app and the development of interest-based communities, because at EVUS, all of our friends have, you know, a wide variety of interests from us as individuals, and it's really hard to have any particular friend meet every single one of our interests. So being able to jump into different kinds of groups and be part of those communities and engage in real-time conversations about topics that are interesting, I think is for us really about the next phase of Squad. And so what happens when you can meet and facilitate conversations outside of your friend group. And we're still early on that part of the journey, and so that's a piece that's really exciting to me.
That is exciting. As you were saying that, I'm like, you know, none of my friends like anime, and I like anime, and I can never have that conversation because guess what? They don't like it. And I mean, it is what it is. But when you're saying that, I'm like, oh, I could find other people that like random stuff like me at random times. I'm in. I'm like, it's because I don't even know how I ended up liking that. I don't know where it came from. It was a random thing I did one day, and I'm like, oh, I like this. Wait a minute. And then I want to have a conversation with people, and it's like, nobody knows what I'm talking about, Esther. So I love it. I get the point.
I feel you. I have a wide variety of interests myself.
Awesome. So Esther, if somebody is listening to this and they want more information on Squad or to connect with the brand, I mean, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so our app can be found in the App Store just by searching Squad, or you can go to our website, squadapp.io, and we're on the traditional platforms. We're on Twitter and Instagram as Squad, or on TikTok as Squad App.
Fantastic. Well, Esther, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about all your great work as Squad. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Innovation, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments on the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Esther, thanks again for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.